The great chamber of the Galactic Council buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from dozens of species filled the floating seats, their various forms creating a rainbow of colors and shapes. But today, they all shared the same expression of worry. Ambassador Zethkri stood at the center podium, his blue skin darker than usual with stress. The tall, thin alien adjusted his ceremonial robes and looked around the chamber. Every eye, sensor, and optical organ focused on him. "Fellow beings," Zethkri began, his voice carrying clearly through the translation devices. "We gather today to discuss the human problem." A ripple of unease passed through the assembly. The crystalline delegate's body flashed red with alarm. The insectoid hive speaker clicked her mandibles rapidly. Even the peaceful plant-like Verdani rustled their leaves with concern. 3 cycles ago, Zethkri continued, humans were unknown to us. They appeared suddenly, claiming to come from a small world they call Earth. At first, we thought them harmless. They looked weak, soft, with no natural weapons or armor. The Veltar ambassador activated a holographic display. Images of humans appeared, small pink or brown creatures with tiny teeth and no claws. They looked almost fragile compared to the mighty beings in the chamber. "How wrong we were," Zethkri said quietly. The first image changed. Now it showed a human cargo vessel surrounded by Krex pirates. The Krex were known across the galaxy as fierce raiders with ships like flying fortresses. Their captain had demanded the humans surrender their cargo. "Watch what happened next," Zethkri said. The hologram played the recorded scene. The human captain, a small female with short dark hair, spoke calmly into her communication device. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the merchant vessel New Hope. You have 30 seconds to leave or we will defend ourselves." The Krex captain laughed, his scarred face twisting with amusement. "Little soft skin, you have no weapons. Your ship is barely armed. Surrender now." The human captain smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. 20 seconds! You cannot threaten us!" The Krex roared. 10 seconds. The human's voice never changed, staying calm and cold. The Krex moved to attack. What happened next shocked every being watching the recording. The human cargo ship suddenly split open like a flower. Hidden weapons emerged from every surface. The ship that had looked like a simple trader was actually a disguised warship. But that was not the strangest part. The strangest part was how the humans fought. They did not just shoot at the pirates. They sang while they fought. The recording picked up their voices over the communication channels. They were singing an ancient human war song called Fortunate Son, while they systematically destroyed ships 3 times their size. "Impossible," said the hive speaker, her translator buzzing with static. "No species fights while singing." "It gets worse," Zethkri said. He changed the image again. This time it showed a human diplomatic mission on the world of Kepler Prime. The humans had come to negotiate a trade agreement. Everything seemed normal until terrorists attacked the conference building. The recording showed human ambassador Marcus Williams diving to protect alien delegates, while his security team fought off the attackers. But these humans did not fight like any known species. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles and covering each other with perfect coordination. One human guard, a large male with dark skin, picked up a chair and threw it with such force that it knocked an armed terrorist through a stone wall. Another human, a small female, somehow moved so fast that the recording could barely track her, as she disarmed 3 attackers in seconds. Their ambassador, Zethkri pointed to the screen, continued negotiating even while his people fought a battle around him. He signed the trade agreement while standing over unconscious terrorists. The chamber erupted in worried chatter. The peaceful Verdani swayed in distress. The proud Zephyrians ruffled their feathers in agitation. "There is more," Zethkri said, and the noise stopped immediately. The next recording showed a human research station on an ice world. A terrible storm had damaged their systems and their power was failing. The temperature outside was cold enough to freeze most known species solid in minutes. The humans had a choice: stay inside and hope the power lasted, or go outside to fix the generators in a storm that would kill them. They went outside. The recording showed humans working in conditions that should have been impossible. The wind was so strong it could knock over a Krex warrior. The cold was so intense that their breath froze instantly, but the humans kept working. One human fell down, overcome by the cold. Instead of leaving him to save themselves, 3 other humans formed a circle around their fallen friend. They shared their body heat and kept working with their bare hands when their tools froze solid. They fixed the generator. All of them survived. This is what we learned about humans that day, Zethkri said. They do not abandon their own. Ever. They will die before they leave someone behind. The crystalline delegate pulsed with confusion. But this makes no sense. Individual survival should override group loyalty. It is basic evolutionary logic. Not for humans, Zethkri replied. We have observed them for 3 cycles now. They form emotional bonds not just with their own species but with others. They have humans who consider Veltar to be family. They have humans who will fight and die for crystalline beings they barely know. He changed the display again. This time it showed a human child, maybe 10 years old by their standards. The child was playing with a young Veltar in what looked like a peaceful scene. Watch, Zethkri said. Suddenly a large predator burst from the trees near the playing children. It was a Kalash, a 6-legged hunter with teeth like knives and claws that could cut through metal. It was 3 times the size of the human child and moved like lightning. The human child did not run. Instead, she stepped between the predator and her Veltar friend. With her bare hands, she grabbed a stick and started hitting the Kalash while screaming for help. The recording showed adult humans arriving within seconds, but the child never stopped fighting. Even when the Kalash knocked her down, she kept getting back up and putting herself between the monster and her friend. A human child, Zethkri said quietly, chose to fight a creature that could have killed her easily, to protect someone not even of her species. The chamber was completely silent now. But surely, said the Zephyrian representative, these are exceptional humans, elite soldiers or specially trained individuals. Zethkri shook his head. No, the cargo ship captain was a traitor. The diplomats' guards were standard security. The researchers were scientists. The child was just a child. He paused and looked around the chamber. These are what humans call normal people. We have never encountered their warriors. The silence stretched on. Finally, the hive speaker spoke up. What do you recommend? We maintain peaceful relations, Zethkri said firmly. We trade with them. We learn from them. But we never ever make them our enemies. Agreed, came the chorus from around the chamber. As the session ended and delegates began to leave, none of them knew they had just made the most important decision in galactic history. They thought they understood what humans were capable of. They were wrong again. 6 months after the council meeting about humans, Ambassador Zethkri was awakened by emergency alarms. Red lights flashed in his quarters as his communication device screamed with urgent messages. All council members report immediately, came the automated voice. Galaxy-wide emergency. All council members report immediately. Zethkri dressed quickly and rushed to the emergency chamber. Other delegates were arriving, looking confused and worried. The emergency chamber was smaller than the main council hall, designed for crisis situations. Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian fleet stood at the center podium, her proud feathers dulled with exhaustion. Around her, holographic displays showed star maps with spreading red zones. Beings of the council, Admiral Vextar began, her voice tight with stress. 12 hours ago, our deep space monitors detected massive energy signatures in the outer rim. We sent the exploration vessel Brightwing to investigate. The star map zoomed in on a distant sector. A small blue dot marked the location of the Zephyrian ship. The Brightwing found something we hoped we would never see again. Admiral Vextar continued. The Devourers have awakened. Shocked gasps echoed through the chamber. The Devourers were legend, stories told to frighten young ones, ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy before most current species had even evolved. Impossible, whispered the crystalline delegate. The Devourers are myth. Ancient stories. Admiral Vextar activated another display. The recording was grainy, clearly taken from a great distance. It showed massive shapes moving through space, ships so large they dwarfed planets. The Brightwing managed to transmit this before... Admiral Vextar paused, before contact was lost. The recording showed one of the massive ships turning toward the Zephyrian vessel. A beam of dark energy reached out across space. Where it touched the Brightwing, the ship simply stopped existing. Not destroyed, not blown apart. It just ceased to be. Our best scientists estimate those ships are over 50 kilometers long. Admiral Vextar said, Their weapons operate on principles we do not understand. They appear to unmake matter at the quantum level. The hive speaker's mandibles clicked rapidly. How many ships? Our scans detected at least 300 before the bright wing was lost, Admiral Vextar replied. But there may be more. Many more. Another delegate stood up. It was General Thakmore of the Krex military, his scarred face grim. Where are they going? Admiral Vextar changed the display to show the galaxy. Red arrows indicated the path of the Devourer fleet. They are moving toward the core worlds. At their current speed, they will reach the first inhabited systems in 6 days. The chamber erupted in panicked voices. Representatives shouted over each other, demanding answers, making suggestions, calling for evacuation plans. Silence, Admiral Vextar commanded. The chamber quieted. We have already begun military preparations. All fleet commanders have been contacted. We are assembling the largest combined force in galactic history. What are our chances? Asked the Verdani representative, his leaves rustling with fear. Admiral Vextar was quiet for a long moment. The Devourers conquered the galaxy once before, when they were fewer in number and less advanced. We can only hope that our combined technology and numbers will be enough. Over the next 3 days, ships gathered from across the galaxy. The Zephyrian battle cruisers with their gleaming hulls and powerful plasma cannons, the Krex destroyer fleets with their heavy armor and fusion missiles, the crystalline living ships that could repair themselves and adapt to enemy weapons. It was the largest military force ever assembled. Over 10,000 ships representing every major species in the galaxy. They met the Devourers at the Kef system, an uninhabited area chosen as the first line of defense. The battle lasted 47 minutes. Sethkri watched the recordings later, in the emergency chamber that had become a permanent war room. The delegates sat in stunned silence as the reports came in. The Devourer ships had emerged from hyperspace like nightmares. Dark metal constructs covered in strange symbols that hurt to look at directly. When they fired their weapons, space itself seemed to scream. The combined galactic fleet attacked with everything they had. Plasma beams, fusion missiles, gravity bombs, reality warping devices, the weapons that had won 1,000 wars across the galaxy. The Devourers absorbed it all. Their ships had shields that turned every attack into energy for their own weapons. When the crystalline living ships tried to adapt, the Devourers simply rewrote their genetic code, turning them into weapons against their own creators. The Zephyrian battlecruiser Thunder's pride of their fleet, had charged directly at the largest Devourer ship. Its captain had planned to ram the enemy vessel at full speed, hoping to at least damage it. The Devourer ship had simply reached out with some kind of energy field and stopped the Thunder's pride mid-flight. Then it began pulling the Zephyrian ship apart piece by piece, studying each component before dissolving it. Total casualties? Asked the hive speaker quietly. Admiral Vextar's voice was barely a whisper. 97%. 300 ships escaped. The rest are gone. The chamber was silent except for the humming of life support systems. How long until they reach the core worlds? Asked General Thakmore. At their current pace, 4 days, Admiral Vexistar replied. They have destroyed 3 more systems since the battle. Each time they seem to be learning, adapting, becoming more efficient. What do we do? Asked the Verdani representative. Do we evacuate? Do we surrender? The Devourers do not take prisoners, said an old crystalline elder who had joined the emergency session. In the ancient records, there are no stories of planets being spared, populations being enslaved. They consume everything and move on. Sethkri stood up slowly. All eyes turned to him. There is one option we have not discussed, he said. What? Asked Admiral Vextar. The humans. The chamber erupted again. Some delegates shouted in agreement, others in protest. They are just one species, General Thakmore roared. What can they do that our combined fleets could not? They are different, Sethkri said firmly. We all know this. They think differently, fight differently, maybe different enough to find a way. It is worth trying, agreed the hive speaker. We have nothing left to lose. Admiral Vextar nodded slowly. I will send a message to Earth immediately. But what can we offer them? What reason do they have to help us? Sethkri looked around the chamber at the assembled representatives of a dozen species, all facing extinction. We tell them the truth, he said, that we need them, and that if the Devourers finish with us, Earth will be next. The vote was unanimous. As Admiral Vextar prepared the emergency communication to Earth, none of the delegates knew they were about to discover just how wrong they had been about humans. They thought they had seen human determination, human creativity, human courage. They had seen nothing yet. The human response came faster than anyone expected. Admiral Vexitar had sent the emergency message to Earth just 8 hours ago. Most species would need days or weeks to organize a response to such a crisis. The humans replied in 3 hours. Message received and understood, came the calm voice of Admiral Sarah Mitchell, commander of the Human Defense Force. We are deploying our standard response fleet immediately. Estimated arrival at your coordinates in 36 hours. Zethkri felt a mixture of relief and worry as he listened to the recording. The humans were coming, but they called it a standard response. After seeing what the Devourers could do, he hoped human standards were enough. How many ships are they sending? Asked the Hive speaker. Admiral Vexitar checked her reports. Their message lists 120 vessels, cruisers, destroyers, and support ships. They are also sending 20,000 ground troops. General Thakmore snorted. 20,000? We lost 10 million beings in the first battle. Human ships may be different, Zethkri said hopefully. Remember, they always surprise us. The human fleet arrived exactly on schedule. Zethkri watched from the observation deck as the ships came out of hyperspace. They looked normal, sleek metal vessels with standard weapons arrays, larger than he expected, but nothing that seemed revolutionary. Admiral Sarah Mitchell came aboard the Council command ship for a strategy meeting. She was a tall woman with gray hair and steady blue eyes. She wore a simple blue uniform with small metal pins on her chest. Thank you for coming, Admiral Vexitar said as they gathered in the war room. We are desperate. The Devourers have destroyed everything we sent against them. Admiral Mitchell studied the tactical displays showing the positions of the Devourer fleet. We've reviewed your battle recordings. Impressive enemy capabilities. Energy absorption shields, matter conversion weapons, adaptive technology. Can you stop them? Asked General Thakmore bluntly. Admiral Mitchell was quiet for a moment. We'll find out. Our plan is simple. We engage them at maximum range with long-distance missiles. If that fails, we close for direct combat. If that fails, she shrugged. We get creative. The next day, the human fleet took position at the edge of the Talar system, where the Devourers were consuming the fourth planet. Zethkri watched from the command ship as both fleets prepared for battle. The Devourers detected the humans immediately. 12 of their massive ships turned toward the human fleet, their dark hulls gleaming with strange energy patterns. Human fleet. This is Admiral Mitchell, came the calm voice over the communication channels. All ships fire Plan Alpha. Let's see what these things can do. The human ships fired first. Missiles streaked across space toward the Devourer vessels. But these were not ordinary missiles. As they flew, they broke apart into smaller pieces. Then smaller pieces again until thousands of tiny projectiles swarmed toward each target. The Devourer shields activated, the same energy barriers that had absorbed every previous attack. The first wave of human missiles hit and vanished, their energy feeding into the shield systems. Then the second wave hit, and the third, and the fourth. Interesting, Admiral Mitchell said, her voice unchanged. Their shields have a maximum absorption rate. Commander Torres, initiate saturation bombardment. Every human ship began firing continuously. Not just missiles now, but energy beams, plasma bolts, and weapons Zethkri had never seen before. The space between the fleets lit up like a star. For the first time, a Devourer shield flickered. Minor damage to Target 7, reported a human tactical officer. Shield generators are overloading. Good, Admiral Mitchell said. All ships focus fire on Target 7. Let's crack it open. The concentrated fire from the human fleet slammed into the single Devourer ship. Its shields failed completely and the dark hull beneath began to glow with heat. Then the Devourer ship did something unexpected. It split in half, becoming 2 smaller ships, each with its own shield system. Well, that's new, Admiral Mitchell said calmly. All ships divide fire between Target 7 Alpha and 7 Beta. And launch the Marines. Marines? Zethkri asked Admiral Vexitar. What can ground troops do in space? They got their answer quickly. Small ships launched from the human fleet, racing toward the damaged Devourer vessels. These were boarding craft designed to attach to enemy ships and deploy troops inside. Human fleet, came a new voice over the radio. This is Colonel Marcus Webb, 1st Marine Battalion. We are boarding Target 7 Alpha. If anyone wants to place bets on how long this takes, the record is 12 minutes. Zethkri watched in amazement as the small human ships attached themselves to the massive Devourer vessel, like parasites. Within minutes, explosions began erupting across the alien ship's hull. Contact, came Colonel Webb's voice, now with the sound of weapons fire in the background. Engaging hostile forces inside the ship. These things are ugly up close. Rodriguez, use the plasma charges on that bulkhead. The space battle continued around them, but Zethkri found himself focused on the marine communications. The humans were actually fighting inside an enemy ship, in corridors filled with creatures that had conquered the galaxy before. Approaching what looks like the bridge, Colonel Webb reported. Heavy resistance. Jackson Wilson, flank left. Martinez, stay with the demo charges. We're going to blow this thing from the inside. Colonel, came Admiral Mitchell's voice. How are you doing in there? Just like training, Admiral. Except the aliens are bigger and uglier than the simulations. Give us another 5 minutes. You have 3. We're taking heavy fire out here. The human fleet was indeed under attack now. The Devourers had adapted to their tactics, developing new weapons that punched through human shields. 2 human destroyers were already badly damaged, but the humans kept fighting with the same calm determination they had shown before. When their shields failed, they used their ships as weapons, ramming damaged vessels into enemy targets. When their weapons overheated, they improvised new ones from spare parts. Got it, came Colonel Webb's voice. We're in their control center. Setting charges now. All Marines, 30 seconds to evacuation. The boarding craft detached from the Devourer ship just before it exploded from the inside. The massive vessel broke apart, its pieces drifting lifeless through space. First kill confirmed, Admiral Mitchell announced. All ships, repeat boarding procedures on remaining targets. Marines, good work. Just doing our job, Admiral, Colonel Webb replied. Ready for the next one. The battle continued for 6 hours. It was the longest any force had survived against the Devourers. The humans lost 30 ships and 4,000 troops, but they destroyed 8 enemy vessels and damaged several others. Most importantly, they forced the Devourers to retreat. As the alien fleet withdrew to regroup, Admiral Mitchell contacted the Council command ship. Admiral Vextar, this is Mitchell. We've bought you some time, but this was just a probe. They were testing us. How do you know? Asked Admiral Vextar. Because they only sent 12 ships against us. According to your scans, they have hundreds. They wanted to see what we could do. Zethkri felt his hope fading. So we failed? Not failed, Admiral Mitchell said. We learned. And more importantly, we hurt them. These Devourers aren't invincible. They can be killed. It just takes the right approach. What do we do now? Asked General Thakmore. Admiral Mitchell was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different. Harder. Now we call in the specialists. The new human ships arrived without warning. Zethkri was reviewing battle reports when alarms started sounding. The Council command ship's sensors had detected multiple hyperspace signatures, but the readings made no sense. Admiral Vextar called the sensor operator, his voice confused. I'm detecting human ships, but something is wrong. Wrong how? Admiral Vextar demanded. They're not showing up on most of our scanners. Only the quantum detection array is picking them up, and barely. On the main display, ghostly outlines appeared around the fleet. Ships that seemed to bend light around themselves, making them nearly invisible. This is Admiral Chen of the Human Special Operations Fleet, came a new voice over communications. The voice was calm like Admiral Mitchell's, but there was something different about it. Something that made Zethkri's skin crawl. Admiral Mitchell, good to see you survived. Admiral Chen continued. We'll take it from here. The hidden ships began to materialize fully. They were smaller than the standard human fleet, and their design was completely different. Where the regular human ships had clean lines and standard weapons, these vessels looked predatory. Their hulls were covered in strange angles that seemed to hurt to look at directly. How many ships? Asked Admiral Vexistar quietly. 57, reported the sensor operator. But Admiral, their energy signatures. I've never seen anything like this. A shuttle launched from the lead stealth ship and docked with the command vessel. Zethkri watched as the airlock opened and the new humans entered. They were definitely human, but something was different. They moved like liquid death, their eyes constantly scanning for threats that weren't there. The leader was a tall woman with short black hair and scars on her hands that looked like they came from weapons. Admiral Chen, she introduced herself to Admiral Vextar. Thank you for keeping the enemy busy while we prepared. Prepared for what? Asked Admiral Vextar. Admiral Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. To show these devourers what humans are really capable of when we stop being polite. Behind her stood other humans that made Zethkri uncomfortable just to look at. A massive man whose muscles seemed too large for his frame. A small woman whose eyes reflected light like an animal's. A young man whose skin had a metallic sheen. "These are my specialists," Admiral Chen said. "Commander Reaper, our infiltration expert. Sergeant Atlas, enhanced combat specialist. Lieutenant Ghost, stealth operations. Dr. Cypher, our xenobiologist." "Enhanced?" asked General Thakmore. "What does that mean?" Dr. Cypher stepped forward. He looked like a normal human except for his eyes, which were completely silver. "It means we are what humanity becomes when we need to fight monsters." Admiral Chen activated a holographic display showing the Devourer fleet position. "They've regrouped in the Nexus system. 400 ships in a defensive formation around their flagship. They think they're safe." "They are safe," protested Admiral Vextar. "That formation is impenetrable. We would need 1,000 ships to break through." "You would," Admiral Chen agreed. "We need 5 people." The room fell silent. "Impossible," said General Thakmore. Commander Reaper spoke for the first time. Her voice was soft, almost musical, but somehow terrifying. "General, your people fight wars by throwing armies at each other until one side breaks. Humans learned long ago that sometimes you don't need an army. Sometimes you just need the right person in the right place." Admiral Chen pointed to the display. "The Devourer flagship controls their entire fleet. Destroy it and the rest fall into chaos. But it's protected by shields we can't break and armor we can't penetrate. So how do you plan to destroy it?" asked the Hive speaker. "We don't destroy it," said Lieutenant Ghost, materializing beside the display. Sethakri jumped. He hadn't seen the human move. "We take it over." "Take it over?" Admiral Vextar stared at the massive ship on the display. "That vessel is 50 kilometers long and contains millions of Devourers." Sergeant Atlas laughed, a sound like grinding metal. "Millions of targets. This should be fun." Dr. Cypher pulled out a small device and connected it to the display. New information appeared, showing the internal structure of the Devourer ships. "We've been studying the wreckage from your battle," he explained. "Devourer technology is organic mechanical hybrid. Their ships are alive, in a sense. And anything that's alive can be killed." The display showed pathway after pathway through the ship's interior. Air ducts, power conduits, neural pathways that looked disturbingly similar to a nervous system. "The flagship has a central consciousness node," Dr. Cypher continued, "like a brain. Destroy that and the ship dies. The fleet dies. How do you get inside?" asked Zethkri. Commander Reaper smiled. "Leave that to me." Admiral Chen turned to Admiral Vextar. "We need your fleets to create a distraction. Full assault on their perimeter. Make them think you're trying to break through by force." "Our ships will be destroyed," Admiral Vextar protested. "Some will," Admiral Chen agreed. "War is not kind. But while they're focused on your attack, my team will infiltrate their flagship." "Just 5 people against millions?" General Thakmore shook his head. "Even humans have limits." Dr. Cypher's silver eyes gleamed. "General, you still don't understand what we are." He held up his hand. Before their eyes, his skin shifted and changed, becoming metallic armor. His fingers extended into razor-sharp claws. "We are not just humans anymore," he said quietly. "We are what humans become when our species faces extinction." Sergeant Atlas stepped forward. His uniform bulged as his muscles expanded. His eyes began to glow with internal light. "We are the children born in laboratories," he said, "raised from birth to be perfect warriors." Lieutenant Ghost seemed to fade in and out of existence, sometimes solid, sometimes translucent. "We are the ones who learned to bend light and shadow," she whispered, "to move between spaces that don't exist." Commander Reaper's scars began to glow. The air around her shimmered with barely contained energy. "We are the ones who studied every form of death in the galaxy," she said, "and learned to master them all." Admiral Chen looked around the room at the shocked faces of the alien delegates. "For 3 years. You've known our merchants, our diplomats, our regular soldiers," she said. "You thought that was humanity. But every species has secrets. Every species has those who walk in the dark so others can live in the light." She gestured to her team. "These are Earth's monsters, created to fight monsters. And now the greatest monsters in galactic history have awakened." Admiral Chen's smile was cold as ice. "They're about to learn why even the darkness fears to wake sleeping humans." The battle plan was set. In 12 hours, the combined galactic fleets would attack the Devourer defensive line. During the chaos, 5 humans would attempt what no army could accomplish. As the aliens prepared their forces, None of them noticed the small dark ship that detached itself from the human stealth fleet and disappeared into the void. The hunt was beginning. The final battle began at dawn, Galactic Standard Time. Zethkri watched from the Council command ship as the combined fleets moved into position. Every surviving vessel from a dozen species formed attack formations. Zephyrian battlecruisers, Krex destroyers, crystalline bioships, and hundreds of others. At the center of their formation, Admiral Mitchell's human fleet waited. The regular humans who had already proven they could hurt the Devourers. "All ships, this is Admiral Vextar," came the announcement. "Today we fight not just for our worlds, but for the right of life to exist in this galaxy. All ships advance." The massive fleet surged forward toward the Devourer defensive line, 400 alien ships against the greatest threat the galaxy had ever known. The Devourers responded immediately. Their massive vessels moved into intercept positions, weapons charging with dark energy. The space between the fleets filled with deadly fire. "Taking heavy casualties," reported Admiral Mitchell. "The Zephyrian third wing is gone. Crystalline formation is scattered." But the attack continued. Every species fought with desperate courage, knowing this was their last chance. While the battle raged, no one noticed the tiny ship that slipped past the fighting. Commander Reaper's stealth vessel was invisible to Devourer sensors, hidden in the shadow of a destroyed asteroid. "Target acquired," came Reaper's voice over the secure channel. "Beginning infiltration." The human stealth ship attached itself to the massive Devourer flagship like a tick on a giant beast. The ship was so huge that even the human vessel was lost among its metal folds and organic curves. Inside the ship, 5 humans prepared for war. Commander Reaper checked her weapons one final time. Her body armor looked simple, but Zethkri had seen it stop energy blasts that could melt steel. Her rifle was small and quiet, designed for precision rather than power. Sergeant Atlas needed no weapons. His body was the weapon. Muscles enhanced beyond human limits, bones reinforced with alien metals, reflexes boosted by neural implants. He could punch through ship armor with his bare hands. Lieutenant Ghost faded in and out of visible light, testing her stealth systems. She carried no weapons at all. She was the weapon, trained in every killing technique known to a dozen species. Dr. Cypher's silver eyes glowed as he interfaced with the ship's computers. His brain had been enhanced with quantum processors, allowing him to think at superhuman speed. And Admiral Chen stood at the center, calm and ready. She had fought in wars across 3 sectors. She had seen her own species' worst nightmares and survived them. "All, hull breach complete," reported their ship's AI. "Entry point secured." The humans moved into the Devourer ship. The interior was a nightmare of organic technology. Walls that pulsed like living tissue surrounded corridors that seemed to breathe. Strange lights moved through transparent tubes, and the air itself felt hostile. "Sensor readings confirm," whispered Dr. Cypher. "This ship is alive, not just controlled by living beings, but actually alive itself." "How do we kill it?" asked Lieutenant Ghost. "Same way you kill anything," replied Sergeant Atlas. "Cut off its head." They moved deeper into the ship, following Dr. Cypher's analysis of its nervous system. The pathways led them through chambers filled with Devourer creatures. Zethkri had never seen a live Devourer before. The recordings had not prepared him for the reality. They were tall, thin beings covered in dark metal that seemed fused to their flesh. Their faces were hidden behind masks that glowed with malevolent intelligence. "Contact," whispered Commander Reaper. The first group of Devourers never knew what hit them. Reaper's rifle spoke in silent whispers, each shot perfectly placed. The aliens collapsed without a sound, but more were coming. Alerts began sounding throughout the ship as the Devourers realized they had been invaded. "So much for stealth," said Sergeant Atlas cheerfully. "Time for the direct approach." What happened next was not a battle. It was an extermination. Sergeant Atlas moved through the Devourer defenders like a force of nature. His enhanced muscles sent aliens flying through metal walls. His reinforced fists shattered their weapons and armor. When they tried to surround him, he simply picked up pieces of their own ship and used them as weapons. Lieutenant Ghost flowed around the defenders like smoke. She appeared behind them, struck once with perfect precision, and vanished again. The Devourers spun in confusion, fighting an enemy they could not see or touch. Commander Reaper advanced steadily through the chaos, her rifle picking off targets with mechanical precision. Every shot was a kill. Every step brought them closer to their goal. Dr. Cypher guided them through the ship's living maze, his enhanced mind processing the alien technology faster than its own creators could adapt. Central node is 3 levels up, he reported, but they're sealing the pathways. Not a problem, said Admiral Chen. She pulled out a device that looked like a simple metal cylinder. When she activated it, sections of the ship's hull simply vanished, creating new pathways through solid matter. Quantum disruptor, she explained to the others, unmakes matter at the molecular level. They carved their way up through the ship, leaving a trail of destruction behind them. Thousands of devourers tried to stop them. None succeeded. Outside, the space battle was reaching its climax. The galactic fleets had lost over half their ships, but they were still fighting. Admiral Mitchell's forces held the center, their weapons keeping the enemy focused on the main battle. "Admiral," came a desperate call from General Takmor. "We can't hold much longer." "Hold anyway," Admiral Mitchell replied. "The specialists need more time." Inside the flagship, the 5 humans reached the central node. It was a massive chamber filled with pulsing organic computers. At the center stood the flagship's consciousness, a being that was part machine, part living creature, and completely alien. "You are too late," it spoke, its voice like grinding metal. "We have already analyzed your tactics. Your fleets are beaten. Soon we will consume your worlds and add your knowledge to our own." Admiral Chen walked forward calmly. "You made one mistake." "What mistake?" "You assumed we were trying to save the galaxy." The devourer consciousness paused, confused. Admiral Chen smiled coldly. "We're not here to save anyone. We're here to teach you why you should never threaten humans." She raised the quantum disruptor and aimed it at the central node. "This is for every human child who will never have to fear your kind." The device fired. The effect was instant and total. The quantum disruptor didn't just destroy the consciousness node. It unraveled the quantum bonds that held the entire ship together. The massive flagship began to collapse from the inside out, its living systems dying as its brain was erased from existence. "All teams, this is Admiral Chen," she said into her communicator. "Mission accomplished. Beginning extraction." But they never made it to their ship. The flagship's death throes trapped them in the collapsing vessel. As the ship tore itself apart, the 5 humans were caught in a cascade of falling debris. "Admiral," called Commander Reaper, "we're not getting out of this one." Admiral Chen nodded calmly. "I know. Any regrets?" asked Sergeant Atlas as a massive beam fell toward them. "Just one," Admiral Chen replied. "That we can't see the look on their faces when they realize what we've done." The flagship exploded. The death of the central consciousness sent shockwaves through the entire Devourer fleet. Ship after ship began shutting down as their controlling intelligence died. The ancient armada that had conquered the galaxy went dark and silent. On the Council command ship, Zethkri watched in amazement as 400 enemy vessels simply stopped functioning. "What happened?" asked Admiral Vextar. Admiral Mitchell's voice came over the communication channel, quiet and respectful. "They did it. 5 humans just ended a war that could have destroyed the galaxy." "Where are they?" asked the Hive speaker. "Are they safe?" There was a long silence. "They knew it was a one-way mission," Admiral Mitchell said finally. "They volunteered anyway." The chamber was silent as the full meaning sank in. "Why?" whispered Zethkri. "Why would they sacrifice themselves for us?" Admiral Mitchell's response was simple. "Because that's what humans do. We protect those who cannot protect themselves." In the days that followed, as salvage crews picked through the dead Devourer fleet, they found something unexpected. The bodies of the 5 human specialists were recovered from the wreckage of the flagship. Their funeral was attended by representatives from every species in the galaxy. As Zethkri stood at the memorial, he finally understood what made humans different. It wasn't their strength or their weapons or their technology. It was their willingness to stand between the darkness and everyone else, no matter the cost. The galaxy had feared humans before they saw their warriors. Now they revered them, and in the deep spaces between the stars, other ancient threats that had been stirring in the darkness felt the death of the Devourers and made a different choice. They went back to sleep. Some nightmares, they learned, were not worth waking humans.